trying something different this morning using my iPad. I also brought a hard copy, heavily marked up with my editing in pen, but I thought I'll try this, and so far I have it here. I want to say how lovely it is to be in a church that is church, even though we don't call ourselves church. We see the back wall filled with boxes of cereal, and we see people here who survived the birthday party. If your neighborhood was like mine, there was a lot of celebrating going on other than in Washington, D.C. I also want to mention, and I know this every Sunday, but it paid a special attention to it today. Happy is the one who acts out our Christianity in real terms on Sunday mornings. We have a visitor, first-time visitor. My friend Julie is here, and I don't know how much longer Happy stayed with you than anybody else, Julie, but he was really giving you a welcome, and we hope you feel welcome. And of course, I brought Alan with me again so he could tell me if I did okay or whatever he tells me at the end of the week. This was a hard one, and I tried several times to undo it. And then toward the end of this week, it thought it still had to be done, and Lord only knows, and you all will know soon, whether it works or not. But I had started with such a somber beginning, and I want to change my beginning a little bit and say that lest you be dismayed by the somber tone of much of this message, I assure you of this. I believe in miracles. I just believe that we sometimes have to work like hell in order to get them to come to us. We have to do the work. America is broken because Americans, like all human beings, are broken. Human brokenness is the universal reality of our inner fracturing, our pain, our limitations. We don't escape it. All of us have some degree of brokenness, and sadly, we pass it on to others. That's just part of our human condition, like it or not. But let's begin with the grim face of America. We'll get to the miracle in a minute. The grim face of America, in recognition of, though not in honor of, much of the official celebrations of America's 250th birthday yesterday. But we know there is nothing new under the sun. That from early human history, the all too human desire to divide and conquer has led to division and conquest. Don Marquis's poem, What the Ants Are Saying, was published in 1935, which could have made him known as a prophet, except he borrowed what others had said centuries and centuries and centuries before him. Some of you may know Don Marquis's writings. He's the author of the book, probably the only book in history that was written by a roach. Yeah. Anybody know the name of the book that was written by a roach? Archie and Mahinimal. Oh. Archie was the roach, and Archie was a little roach Sonny, this is kind of silly, but this is the way it was. Archie was so little, and he was writing on a typewriter in Don's office. Don was a newspaper man, but he couldn't hit the shift key because he was so little. All he could do was type with his little roach hands. And so everything is in lowercase, which makes it interesting to read. It's a very long poem, and I will share only a part of it, and you can thank me later. In the poem, the word deserts, the phrase, the deserts are coming, deserts actually refers to actual deserts, but it also refers to the striving of the powerful to increase their power at any cost. And I'll begin. What man calls civilization always results in deserts. Man is never on the square. He uses up the fat and greenery of the earth. Each generation wastes a little more of the future with greed and lust for riches. America was once a paradise of timberland and stream, but it is dying because of the greed of 1,000 little kings and the money lust of the kings who slashed the timber all to hell and would not be controlled, and changed the climate and stole the rainfall from posterity. And it won't be long now. It won't be long till everything is desert. From the Alleghenies to the Rockies, the deserts are coming. The deserts are spreading. The springs and streams are drying up. Men talk of money and industry, of hard times and recoveries, of finance and economics. But the ants wait, and the scorpions wait. For while men talk, they are making deserts all the time, getting the world ready for the conquering ant, drought and erosion and desert, because men cannot learn. We are all broken people in this world, and I suppose since the birth of humanity, of humankind, there has been nothing but brokenness in some brokenness in each of us. Perhaps more in the Western world because there have always been so many more factors that affect us, keep us from attending the things that matter, which would be our lives and our richness in our relationships, to the accumulation of wealth and other symbols of power. So we shift from life to wealth and power, and somehow that is both a result of and a cause of our brokenness. Our brokenness shows up in spiritual, emotional, and psychological ways. Yet we form shields around our minds and hearts and souls to protect us from acknowledging, even from knowing, how our brokenness affects others, and also how others' brokenness affects us. The poem says the ant and a scorpion will conquer because men cannot learn. Perhaps we need a miracle. In John 5, we read of a miracle. I'm paraphrasing this story. There was a man paralyzed for 38 years who lay beside the healing pools in Bethsaida, where there were a conglomeration of pools, and a multitude of people were always there who wanted to get healed. But the story was that when the waters were troubling, in other words, when the underground springs released water, fresh water, into the pools, and the water started churning a little bit, that was when the healing could take place. And so everybody wanted to get in first. You know the song, wade in the water, children, because God's going to trouble the water. Well, God wants us to be healed. So here we have this man paralyzed for 38 years, and Jesus was walking by. And Jesus said to him, do you want to be made whole? Do you want to be made whole? Well, the man started giving explanations about why he couldn't get into the pool. He was lame, for goodness sakes, and there was nobody to help him. He didn't have any family there, and Jesus would not listen to his excuses. Jesus just looked at the man and said, take up your bed and walk. Take up your bed and walk, you man paralyzed for 38 years. And John Brown, as my mama would have said, he did. The man walked away, holding his pallet that he had been lying over however long. Now, part of the problem, in fact, a big part of the problem of miracles is that it seems as though, in this story at least, the miracle was the man paralyzed for 38 years, standing up and walking away. If that's the miracle, and we can assume with justification that at least it's supposed to be a miracle, if so, that was something that happened to one man in one place in one time. And I think we have tried for all these centuries to replicate those kinds of miracles that really happened perhaps to one person at one time. But the good news is, and it is good news, there is a greater miracle. A greater miracle in this story, and it is this. It's the question. The miracle is in the question. Do you want to be made whole? Do you want to be made whole? The words whole and healing come from the same root word. The man beside the pool in Jerusalem is paralyzed. Humans, all humans, are broken by inherited and cultural factors that kind of paralyze us too. Keep us from doing some of the things we should do, some of the things we want to do. So we get kind of a feeling of what it means to be paralyzed. When we are paralyzed, it leads to the creation of real and metaphorical deserts. With his brilliant question, do you want to be made whole? Jesus, or in some translations, do you want to get well? Is what it means. It's the same thing. Do you want to get well? What's the emphasis? What's the word of emphasis in this question? Want. Do you want? And here's the secret. And don't tell anybody I said this. But that word leads us to, Jesus expects us to do a whole lot of work. That ain't the Jesus we hear about in some miracle stories, or that we're taught in some miracle stories. But Jesus leaves it up to us, the question of our spiritual and psychological wholeness. He gives it back to us, expecting us to say yes and to grow healthier and begin to turn around the growing deserts of the world. Literal and metaphorical deserts. Now, we Americans are no different from others of our species, except that we live in the awareness of and the memory of and the hope of the founding documents of our country, in which the words, all men are created equal, unalienable rights, and life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness are etched on our collective hearts and minds. Yet, we remain paralyzed by the same fragmentation that has paralyzed humanity for its existence. And what breaks us is our greed, our anger, our hunger for power, our self-doubt, our fear, our anxiety, our hubris, and other such things, attitudes, and characteristics of the people in our family, in our neighborhoods, in our world. We can see the fragmentation that's led to the continuing attacks on our democracy. And let's face it, folks, the attacks on our faith. People who are broken badly can break others mindlessly because that's just the way they are. They're not thinking, ooh, I'm going to go break so-and-so. But just the way they live their lives breaks others. And of course, badly broken people, and anybody in here raised in a family? I was raised in a family. Anybody else raised in a family? Then you probably were raised by broken people or in the presence of broken people. And they didn't intend to break us, but we got broken anyway. Broken people who love us don't intend to break us. And in our brokenness, we break each other. It's part of the human condition. And too often we say, I can't help it. That's just the way I am. As though we have no agency. Many of us are paralyzed by wanting more than we need. You understand, the camera's pointing at me. Many of us are paralyzed by wanting more than we need. And so many, those who are without the resources and the little bit of power those of us in this room have, are left in deserts. There are rural deserts where medical care is scarce. There are urban deserts where grocery stores are scarce. There are other deserts. There are few safe places for the unhoused to go and feel safe. There are few places for young people to go to be together safely. There are few places for old people to go to be in community with others if they, like so many of us, live alone. Knowing that our brokenness leads to the deserts makes us want to try to see how we can take up our beds and walk, as the man in the story did. We see that there's something broken. We might not even be able to name what's broken in us. I can sure point out what's broken in Carmina, though, you know. It's easier to see the broken parts of other people than it is to see our own. But we want to see it, and we want to get unparalyzed. And so we come up with some ideas for what might unbreak us. And as though we are trying badly to get to Carnegie Hall, what we do is practice, practice, practice what broken people often forget or ignore. And I have a list. We practice when we want to be healed, when we want to be made whole. We practice benevolence, treating others as though they were deserving of all the care, kindness, and generosity we can offer. We practice choice, recognizing that in every moment we have the opportunity to choose what kind of person we want to be. We practice forgiveness, choosing to let go of anger and blame toward ourselves and others. We practice integrity, being honest and true to our thoughts and words, actions and deeds, even when nobody else is around to hear us or see us. We practice patience, being willing to wait for others to change, others to grow, without undue pressure from our expectations. We practice silence. We practice respect. We practice sincerity. We practice seeking to understand rather than to be understood. We practice goodness. And we seek wisdom. For those of the paths to wholeness, that is the salve that will mend our brokenness. Oh, we'll still see the cracks. We're not ever going to be smooth and unfragmented looking at all, but we will be put together. Benevolence, choice, forgiveness, integrity, patience, silence, respect, sincerity, wanting to understand, wisdom are seeds. Julie went and bought plants on the hottest day of the year the other day to plant. We're going to question whether that was smart or not. Seeds to plant, to grow. The deserts that small men create with their talk of money and economics and industry need only for some of us who want not to be broken to start planting our seeds. We can grow a garden if we want to be whole. And when Jesus stands before you and asks that question, do you want to be whole? We can say, oh yes, Jesus, I want to be whole.